England have won the Euros, well done to them. Really good stuff. Excellent game, I enjoyed watching it, it was very fun. But this is how the game was won and lost. Let's look at how the teams played, starting with how they lined up and what they were looking to try and do. We'll look at the goals. And specifically, I want to look at how important I think Keira Walsh was to England. Maybe underrated hero in this entire team. Best League One player of the tournament. I think Walsh might be up there for me. And how Walsh played very much like our opposite player, Oberdorf, who does a similar sort of role in a very different way for Germany. So we're going to focus on that. But let's look first of all at England, what they did. So throughout the tournament, they played a 4-2-3-1. They started with the same lineup, I think, every single time, with key players like Mead, who ended up the top scorer in the tournament and also player of the tournament, like I said. Fran Kirby is one of the most important creative players. She created 11 chances in the tournament so far, which puts her joint second. So Germany tried to mark her out the game with Oberdorf, and that's exactly what happened. Walsh and Stanway, rotating positions all the time. When England attacked, the centre-backs would split a little bit, the full-backs would push up, and they would go in line with Stanway and Walsh. So you've got essentially let's call it a 2-4-4, like this. So you get lots of chances. You've got Bronze and Mead in wide areas, Hemp and Daly here. They come into the inside spaces like this to be able to receive long passes. And the long passes you see to these players were these sorts of things. Like you'd have Bright looking for that, you'd have Williamson looking for that. They start wide, they come in here, like that. So what you'd see for a lot of the game was that Bright and Williamson would keep passing side to side to each other while McGull would come up here behind Schuler to try and show them wide. That's what we're trying to do. The really important thing is Walsh and her movement off the ball. So she's constantly moving. Germany are trying to press up. They would press in they were 4-3-3, but they would try and press in a 4-4-1-1 a lot of the time. So always Oberdorf at the back. Dabert's here. So it'd look a bit like this, more like a 4-2-3-1 as well, kind of mirror it. But McGull, so Oberdorf's always trying to keep Kirby quiet to make sure she can't get in the game. White couldn't get in it at all. In fact, Kirby only had 5 successful passes in the entire match. That's one of England's most successful players, so they totally locked her down. Stanway and Walsh, so Walsh particularly ran the game. So if you have Stanway over here, Walsh is here, if they're trying to build in the back, Williamson might switch to Bright. Then Stanway, who'd normally be more of an attacking player than Walsh, would drop in to help. That would mean McGull would be taking out the game a little bit, which meant that Walsh could show to offer a little angled ball here. And the whole time, if it goes over here, she go over here, she would then turn, look up, and spot the next pass. This is always constantly scanning. If you watch her play, she's always looking up to know where the next ball is, takes it on half turn, pings it in, England move up the pitch. That's what they did. As for Germany, so Germany were playing this 4-3-3 that we said. Oberdorf, the key player for me there. Pop was injured in the warm-up. It's a shame she couldn't play, so Schuler started through the middle. And what you had was Germany focusing 51% of their attacks down the right-hand side. And I think that is because Rachel Daly, who is normally a striker or like a wide forward, is playing here. She's a really experienced player, obviously a very good player, but there's little moments of uncertainty you get when you're not actually a defender. You see it constantly in all levels of football. If you're just not quite familiar with your role, things can go wrong in little split seconds, which can result in goals. More of that later. But Daly did well, replaced by Greenwood later on. This is what they're doing, mostly focusing on this sort of wide areas here. They're getting overloads on this right-hand side, maybe Gwyn would overlap, something like that, Huth here. Trying to get chances in. McGull, really important. She scores the goal for them later on. Trying to get in behind as like a second striker, but also a midfielder. Oberdorf, always anchoring the play. Now, on Oberdorf and Walsh, the difference is that they're both effectively sixes. Walsh plays in double pivot, but then when Stanley moves up, she always makes sure she's patrolling this area here to offer a pass, like be able to recycle the ball and move out. Whereas Oberdorf, she plays little passes as well, but she's more of a player that gets tight to someone, wins the ball, and starts the counter. And Germany were playing far more in transition in the first half. That's what they were trying to do. And I'll show you exactly the importance of these players. Thank you, Mark Carey, for making these. This is Keira Walsh's passes versus Germany. You can see she is running the game. Everything is going through her. She's always getting the ball in these middle areas because of her excellent movement, scanning, receiving in space, turning, playing short sideways passes. England can move forward. And crucially, she's playing long passes and progressive passes that are getting England up the pitch, including this one here, which is the ball that leads to the goal that England score. Oberdorf, who is hugely important for Germany in this game, she's mostly patrolling, trying to break things up and then driving forward. Not quite as progressive, not as influential in these final areas here. She's very much more of a safety player who wins the ball back and gets them in transition. Now Walsh sets up the first goal from her movement and be able to play the forward pass, like the way she's running the game here. But it all comes about as a tactical change made by Germany at half-time. So if you watch Sweden versus England, you'll notice from kickoff, Sweden went at them from the very start and really attacked them. England did not like it and they struggled to cope. until they made some tactical changes of their own. Now Germany in the second half, so the first half they were quite deep, wanted to hit them in transition, that's what they wanted to do, be careful. Second half, they absolutely went for them and they were pushing players forward to try and like overload and keep England at bay. Oberdorf still linking with Henrik and Hegering, making sure that she's patrolling this area here, but the fullbacks pushed far higher up the pitch. They went far higher up the pitch from the start, so it meant that England had to pull back more. They also, what England did, was they took off Fran Kirby. So Fran Kirby had been marked out of the game with Oberdorf. She came off, on came Ella Toon. This is really important. Ellie White couldn't really get in the game, had one header early on, didn't do very well. Off she came, on came Alessia Russo. Different kind of player to Ellie White. Ellie White's more of a player who plays off the shoulder of the last defender. Russo is one who can receive the ball with her back to goal, turn, link play, and just make things happen. She's very skillful, great player. Where in the past, in the first half, Germany would try and play short passes, they would be a bit deeper, little triangles they want to have. They would get to maybe this part of the pitch and England would be blocked. And they would block them, they'd squeeze it up, very narrow shape, all the space was out wide. Germany were attacking the wide areas on the right, England were able to deal with it, so good centre backs who could head the ball away. And so their attacks were breaking down with these kind of useless floated passes into the box. It's no use doing that sort of thing, you're not going to win that. It's very rare that you win those sorts of headers and score. So instead, second half, players pushed forward, full-backs right forward. So now the pass is on to play into these girls here in the wide areas. So Hegering has the ball, plays it wide to Rauch. Rauch's here. A ball they were trying to play constantly in the second half was trying to get the ball around the fullback or between the fullback and the centre back for someone like Vasmuth or Schuler to run onto to try and get into the box. They play this pass, it is headed away, it falls with Georgia Stanway who's over this side. So the ball lands with Stanway. Stanway turns, looks up and drives with it. That's what he wants to do. She drives a little bit with it, but she's closed down by a midfielder and has to pass inside to Walsh, who's over here. She comes in to help out. Now at this point, what you've got is Russo, who's I think sort of this side of Oberdorf here, and Toon starts making a run. She's spotted all of this space that they've left by having these players so far forward. There's so much of it to attack, and she's mostly on her own. There's no one really near to her because Oberdorf's dealing with two. So Toon starts to make the run. Here she goes. Walsh starts to come forward with it. She's looking up, looking for where the pass could be, but it's blocked by Oberdorf here. Suddenly these girls start to move up. They leave a slight gap. They leave this angle. You want it to be straight, but they leave it at a slight angle. And that is the mistake they make, because then Walsh can play this brilliant pass over the top and play Toon onside. She can run through here, easily onside. Ball comes in, she comes in here, scoops over the keeper, absolutely brilliant finish. And I can show you what it looks like in pictures to show you exactly what Walsh is seeing and why I think this pass is so good. Here's what we're talking about. Two centre backs, quite deep, a lot of space, vertical space between the centre backs and the forwards because they're pushing up, trying to squeeze England back so they've got more time to play. Full backs, very high up the pitch. Here's Russo, here's Toon. The ball goes wide, Rauch's here. She comes forward with it, tries to play that ball we're talking about, round the side. Mead comes across to try and stop it. You can see England are retreating. They're worried about this is not good. Lots of forwards, lots of options. A front five here, that's really attacking from Germany in the second half. And they're still 60 minutes in, right? So this is not early, they're doing it, and England have figured out what's happening by now. The ball is headed away. Bright heads into Stanway. Stanway controls, lovely bit of control here. Turns and looks. He's looking up to see where to go next. Carries the ball forward a bit, has to tuck inside, play it to Walsh, who comes across with that lovely first touch. Walsh then looks up, spots the pass. You can't really see it on the screen. This is why it's good being in the stadium sometimes, you can see more. So she pings it long for Toon to come inside here. She runs through and goal. What a finish that is. Now, this is the best bit. This is Stanway. This is when she receives the ball. Lots of space. But look, there's no forward options, there's nothing here. Centre backs are here, they're starting to fall back a little bit. You can see the problem already starting to exist. That she's on the line here, and it's gonna be an issue in a minute. 2-4-4 is what you want. So, Stanway starts to bring the ball forward. Toon, I think, is here, and she's starting to make the run. She knows that she's gonna have to do the forward pass, because Russo, who might have been here, has dropped slightly deeper. She's gonna run into this. Stanway, closed down, plays inside to Kira Walsh. Germany start to adjust. Toon's making the run. She's making a curved run here. She adjusts it because she realised then that the pass that she might have been able to get, which was going to be in here. So the pass naturally for Stanley would have been to fire it into this gap. But she can't make that now because she's passed inside. So Toon checks. Ball goes into Walsh. Takes a lovely first touch. Takes her over here, away from trouble. That's what you want. Scanning already. The ball's just under control. She's looking. Toon spots it. She knows what's about to happen. Walsh also knows what's about to happen. And she absolutely fires this ball in the round, and here's the gap. Here's the problem you've got with the two centre backs. So the fullbacks here, they're trying to get in shape. They've got a line that should be straight. It's not. Fires the ball in. Toon makes her run, beats the offside trap, runs in to score a goal. It's absolutely brilliant. And that's how they took the lead. It's the German tactical changes, it's the England tactical changes that have allowed that, and just a little bit of bad luck for Germany, I would say. Now, the goal that Germany score is a result of them, I think it's England being in the lead. Maybe they're a bit nervous, as naturally would be, having the lead at this point. Germany make a bunch of substitutions, won't spend too much time on it because it doesn't really matter that much. But what you have that happens is Germany focusing their play, again, on the right side, and they're trying to isolate Daly. Daly gets outnumbered, she gets taken inside, and leaves far too much space when she moves in like this for an outside player like Blasmus to get in to this point, and she gives the assist. So Williamson comes across to try and cover for that, and that leaves space here. Leaves too big a gap between Williamson and Bright. When Williamson does this, Bright moves across to try and block it, Bronze moves in to do this as well. It's natural, this is what you do, you want to keep your shape. Because Daly's been pulled slightly out of position, the England have lost their shape a little bit, and this is the big problem in like top level football. You lose your shape a little bit, you're in trouble. The ball comes in, because that's like it is, and they've got the too big a gap that you don't want to have. In comes McGull, sneaks into the near post, brilliant finish to go past the goalkeeper. That's what happens. But then what happens later on is that Mead absolutely smashes into, I think it's Rauch who takes out the game, flies into her, injures herself, has to go off. On comes Chloe Kelly, who seals the game for England. And after scoring the goal from a corner, there's not really much to analyse about it. His goal comes in, very scrappy. Goes in though, that's what you want. England then change the way they play. Very, very cunning, very Weasley. It works. This is England's passing map after Chloe Kelly scored. So this is them closing out the game. This is real clever game management. These passes are all going into this area here, where England then did an absolute masterclass of time wasting in this area here. There's a great article in The Athletic about it. I would read that if you would like to know more about it. It's very interesting. They just kept the ball here, saw the game out. That's all they had to do. Germany just couldn't really deal with it. They started to lose their discipline because it was really difficult to, obviously, you're losing and you can't get in, but that is how you manage out a game. Really good game management from England. I think the tactical choices and changes were absolutely bang on, exactly what they needed to do. They reacted to what happened. Germany were really good as well. Didn't do much wrong other than just being caught in a wrong offside line for the first goal. And England just had good players. The composure they showed, I think, was one of the things to talk about in this final, because it's very hard to play the way you want to play in a final when there's all that pressure, so many people watching you. And I think it was just a fantastic performance from England, who deservedly won the tournament. So well done to them. And that is how I saw the Women's European final that happened on Sunday.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic brings you the best sports journalism in the world in a personalised experience, connecting you with the stories and teams that you care about the most. There's coverage of 13 sports, plus direct access to world-class journalists through live Q&As, discussions and podcasts. Not to mention, it's all ad-free. And you can try it now for free for 30 days by clicking the link in the description.